Sonic Frontiers is a game that you can play. Like everyone using a sped up combat mod, I ain't gonna sugarcoat it. The game was very mid. It wasn't the worst thing, but definitely not the greatest thing since sliced bread as some would make it out to be. The story's great, but everything surrounding it, not so much. The aesthetic of the game is pretty boring. The buffering challenges, they're alright, but not all that interesting. If anything, they stuck out like a sore thumb. Cyberspace was yeah, and the combat was a really cool short film. Wait, what do you mean as part of the gameplay? All of this to create an experience that, in my eyes, isn't bad, but leaves a lot to be desired. And it's certainly an odd next step for the series instead of just addressing the issues from the previous entry and improving upon it. I mean, there ain't much room for innovation, but going back to something more akin to Gens and Unleashed seems more logical than nothing. Despite all that, I actually did enjoy the game quite a bit, and from the sales numbers it seems a lot of others did as well. So naturally this new gameplay style is here to stay, but how? How can the overall look of the game be improved upon and not just look like Sonic in a stock asset background? What could be done to appeal to not classic Sonic fans and racing game fans? And can the combat be turned from a Blu-ray exclusive animated short into something more fun and engaging? I don't know, I never made a Sonic game, but you know what I do know? This man's ugly. Ugh, Sonic fans nitpicking the design again? God, are they ever happy? According to Morio Kishimoto, the game's director, the design change was made to have modern Sonic look more like classic Sonic, which I'm not against, I love stuff like that, but yet the execution? I don't like it. In a perfect world, Sonic Team would have taken these criticisms from Sonic Forces and followed in the footsteps of Nintendo, designing the titular character to look more like the illustrations by its most prominent and popular artists. But that dang Sonic Team's gotta be so quirky. I don't know why I did a country accent. First off is muzzle. Back then and even now with Mr. San Diego over here, same to his eyes. And by having it be flat or not wide enough creates a weird overlap. Speaking of overlap, his arms? His arms. They just look like two tubes dangling on by a couple, and oftentimes they'll clip into his body. Sonic Prime actually resolved this issue by having some fur cover his shoulder, making it look more natural even if it could look like a t-shirt at times. Lastly, his quills. Just make him like Lost. Not too short to where they could be snipped off, and not too long to where you follow. So that's it. Sonic model's fixed, right?
Wrong!
In the game, the fur texture was updated to have more detail, so why not take it a step further and have a couple quills poking out? More like Movie or Boom Sonic. Just not like him. Ugh. Add some seams to his gloves and socks, change the eye texture to make it less flat and luminescent. And there's no way his boots have stayed this clean after so many years. Maybe Tail sprayed it with his dirt resilience spray, I don't know. Lastly, and this is something we can all agree on, animated. And cutscenes his eyes standing still are not pushed enough. Make him squishy for Christ! Alright, now we have a guy. What does his world look like? Frontiers had a more realistic look compared to previous games, even more so than something like Unleashed. It just looks. There isn't really anything notable about it, it's just grass, sand, volcano. I feel like I'm 3 steps away from getting lost in this world. They don't feel like they were made with Sonic in mind, just ports of maps from other open world games. Assuming the next game is going to be set in more civilized areas, or is just more closer to the regions the Mobians, Nermies, Furries?
I'm Sonic! Sonic the Hedgehog!
Then I'd only hope for a style that's similar to Generations, where the cartooniness is balanced out with the realism. Just imagine, you're running through a tranquil forest full of luminescent plant life and ruin leading you to a chow garden by a small waterfall. And then the next world is Brooklyn. World design! If the loss of rolling didn't distance the two play styles enough, the stages were definitely the final nail in the coffin. Frontiers, as the game explains it.
It's beautiful here, but there's a loneliness here. The land feels sad and empty.
With much of the more Sonic platforming being elevated, I hate it. Again, it looks less like a Sonic game, and all the floating rails make it look like a fan game test zone, except it's mediocre and you paid $60 for it. Coming up with something that accommodates both is going to be a difficult task. Oh yeah.
Oh wow, Steve keeps talking about a fan game mix.
Sonic Utopia's demo map ain't perfect, but it sets some of the groundwork for it. Like Frontiers, it's a mostly flat landscape with platforming segments spread throughout, but it's all intertwined and most of the terrain isn't disobeying the laws of gravity. The game actually did have some similar segments to this, like one of the Chaos Emeralds on Ares Island being only accessible through a platforming section, or running through a 2D segment to reach Tails to progress the story. I didn't know how to get there, so I just used a rail jump. What I'm getting at is the Sonic team were able to create a healthy blend of naturally integrated Sonic stages and set pieces with SATU-esque design spread across a vast, more hilly landscape. I think we might have peak open zone in our hands. One of the best aspects of this design route, though, is that it still feel like a bunch of Sonic levels just clumped together in one big hub world. You can throw in collectibles like the tokens in Red Ring. It would eliminate the problems with the control scheme of cyberspace in it as a whole because... yeah. And they'd even be able to incorporate time trials similar to the Hourglass minigame. Oh yeah, the minigames, I'd probably mention those. I don't like... Now, one of the main talking points leading up to and after Frontiers release would be how it's Sonic controlled. A lot of folks had hoped for the adventure style to return, while others wouldn't mind a continuation of the boost. And what I said before about overall aesthetics, why not both? Speed stats kind of just there. Alongside increasing your boost, it lets you climb faster, although what's stopping you from just boosting up the wall? It makes the lightspeed dash remotely useful, which would be cool if it didn't take ages to reach that point of how many Cocos you need to collect, and speaking of the Elder Coco, if the game didn't follow every ring trail with dash rings or dash panels. In addition to streamlining the level up process, what if it increased the amount of speed you gain going downhill? Oh my god! There's probably a better way of handling this, like having the boost also be nerfed, or just having no speed stat entirely, but I don't care. I like having reasons to look for things and fish. Some extra moves I think should also be added to accommodate the more momentum-heavy gameplay. The spin dash is a no-brainer, and short hopping into drift would also make great addition. That second one wouldn't really be necessary considering the controls are already really tight, but anything to not let a stage like this happen again. The drop dash should also get an update if it is to return, requiring holding the A button after the first jump as opposed to after the second jump. I didn't really have an issue with this, but everyone in the community has basically expressed distaste towards this, so here. Lastly, get the glue off his shoe! Now that's just Sonic, but we ought to consider how other characters could control if they're ever brought back, now that it's been confirmed that we'll have a chance to play as other characters with the DLC.
Hell no, man.
All of them will control similar to Sonic, just having their own movesets from the previous game. Tails would have his flight, Knuckles would have the drill dive, etc. The boost could be retained, but maybe nerf it for them. Don't want to make Speedy Gonzalez over here look slow. Oh wait, okay, so we established that you can reach the other side of the rainbow, but is he strong?
Ayo, what the fuck?
So, I should preface this by saying I'm no expert on fighting games, but I feel like there should be more player movement than just press the X button, press it again, then watch the entire Sonic movie compressed in a 30-second GIF. Let me use all the buttons simultaneously. When I want to use a cyclone kick, maybe you have to rotate the analog stick. Or when I want to do something with the homing shot, I have to press the X button and bumpers in a short time frame. Imagine a variation of Wild Rush where you gotta align Sonic with the enemy, similar to Sumo. It'd still be somewhat automated, but you're more involved. Speaking of the enemies, they kinda suck. There's a good amount of variety between them, but for the most part you'll just find soldiers laying around in the middle of nowhere. And the only real variation between them is the amount of HP they have, and like one other attack on like Chaos Island. The Guardians do improve upon this a bit though by having you do these little segments beforehand, but these can get really boring and tedious after a while. Like I'm trying to fight Strider, not play for Skyrail. Oh, I'm sorry, I mean 2-6, my favorite Sonic level. And the Titans are the exact same thing, just wailing on them while they just take old hits. That said, I do think Wyvern was a really good boss, where you need to parry all of his attacks back at him, which would be a lot cooler and more satisfying to do if the parry wasn't so easy to use. And that's how I describe the combat overall. It's fun, but really easy to get into, almost at its expense. I think they should lean more into the stylings of enemies like Ninja or Tower, where you're more so directly confronting them instead of chasing them down. Ease up in the bit leading up to the boss, and then have the boss itself be much tougher. And for the enemies themselves, really shake things up a bit. Maybe normal punches and kicks won't break through their shields, so you gotta use projectile attack, but they're so fast that they can dodge your spin attack. It really changes up how you confront enemies and how you want to use your EXP. Another thing I'd love to see the team try is having the moves be used outside of combat. The Cyclone Kick can require you to boost it and circle a few times, similar to the Sonic Wind, and allow you to reach sections only Tails and Knuckles could get to. The Wild Rush could be like the Cyan Whiff, the Loop Kick can break down doors, or using Sonic Boom can hit a switch from far away. It allows for more interesting level design instead of just hallways. And again, it makes the player think more so about what they're going to use their EXP for, rather than just go and find the nearest rock and go, oh, time for the next skill. All of that, doable in the budget and time given, could unify the various styles of 3D Sonic, and bring everyone together in harmony, or as harmonic as the community can. Or Or, just do new super realistic Mario Bros. In real life again, with the only change being a spin dash makes the Origins drop dash look clean. Kishimoto can keep replying to everyone's tweets about the momentums in the end, but I'd rather wait for Update 3 or over half a decade before I even partially trust him in the kitchen. I don't know, man. This might not be what gets the boy out of the hood. But the new Mario and Sonic at the Paris Olympic Games will! Yeah! I freaking love Mario and Sonic, man! Let's